Yes.
Sorry, another one. You said that the U.S. will continue to assist our troops in its fight against Maute and the ASG. Specifically in Marawi, what are the assistance that the U.S. is extending to our troops in trying to deal with the terrorists there?
I think it was Secretary Abella who said that. So please direct the question to him.
These were stated in general terms, so I cannot divulge any specifics. Okay, thank you. Anyway, after this, spokesperson Rusty Padilla will have adequate material to share with you. Sir, are you done?
Is there anybody else? Oh, okay.
Secretary Calida, pwede niyo pong mailarawan yung cabinet meeting kagabi. Ano po yung mga napag-usapan po doon bukod sa nabanggit ni Secretary Abella?
Okay. It was a special meeting to discuss the situation in Marawi City and also for the executive department to submit the report to Congress. The Speaker of the House was there, as well as the Senate President. And conformably with the requirements of the Constitution, the report was given within the time frame. And therefore, the ball is now in Congress. If Congress will not say anything about it, then there's no problem. In other words, it will be considered as acquiescence.
Sir, what are the salient points in the report po, sir?
As I mentioned, I was not able to read the entire report. It was only discussed in parts. But basically, it lays down the basis why martial law was declared, as well as the suspension of the privilege of the writ of habeas corpus. So the report contains detailed facts, substantial facts, to buttress the decision of the President to declare martial law.
Secretary, yung yung sa declaration po ng martial law, tingin niyo po may means ang Congress na harangin pa ito?
I don't think so. The facts are very substantial, and if any citizen will challenge it in the Supreme Court, we are confident, and I am confident, that we will be able to prove that there was substantial basis, factual basis.
Sir, ang inaabangan po yung guidelines sa martial law. Kasi ang City of Davao, naglabas po sila ng 30 guidelines, pero sinabi po ni Mayor Sara Duterte na masusupersede ito kapag lumabas yung galing sa OP and sa AFP na guidelines or IRR. Meron na po ba tayong ilalabas na ganun po?
There will be, actually. It was also partly discussed last night. Well, there will be, of course, the letter of instruction, who will administer the martial law, who will implement it, etc. The details, of course, I cannot tell you right now because I have not seen the entirety of the report.
Sir, with the confirmation that...
Will you please identify yourself?
Come again, sir?
Identify yourself.
I'm Ben Teixeira from CNN Philippines. With the confirmation that foreign terrorists are fighting alongside with the Maute, may we know how were they able to penetrate the country and how many are they? And could you also confirm if among those killed are the foreign terrorists?
I will defer to our military spokesman. He knows better than me.
If there are no more questions regarding the legal side of the proclamation, then I suggest that we listen now to spokesperson Rusty Padilla, who will be able to give you more adequate facts pertaining to your questions. Thank you.
Sir, this may not be...
will you please identify yourself?
Sir, Manuel Cayon of Business Mirror.
All right.
Sir, I don't know if this is entirely about the legal basis of the proclamation, but during the last 2 days, Davao City has rounded up about 250 persons of interest, and I don't know.
I suggest we defer first to the spokesperson, and then you can ask the questions later. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, I have no personal knowledge of the arrest, but that is part of the, they were not really arrested, but they were invited to shed light why they're there. And I believe they were released after their identities were established.
Yeah, that's supposed to be my question. If people outside Mindanao were particularly concerned about the repeated assurances of government that civil rights would be protected and observed, and I don't know if in this arrest and in the raids in suspected places, if the courts have jurisdiction in this, and if the legal rights have been observed.
Well, you must remember, together with the declaration of martial law, the President also proclaimed a suspension of the privilege of the writ of habeas corpus. Yes, the courts are still functioning, and the law-abiding citizens should not be concerned. Those who should be concerned are those who are rebelling against the government.
Sir Padilla, Diane from UNTV.
Speak clearly, please.
Yes. Mr. Padilla from...
Will you please, questions for Mr. Padilla after he makes a report.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Anybody else?
Good
SolGen.
Good morning, sir. I am Melihor from Philippine News Agency, Davao, to Secretary Calida. Sir, there is an ongoing peace process. How will this impact, considering that many of those who are working or the stakeholders are worried how this martial law will affect the peace process? Other groups, the MNLF, MILF, and the NDF.
This will not affect the ongoing peace process talks because they are not involved in this rebellion.
Anybody else, please? Thank you.
Good morning, sir. I am Marilu Talentino from the XRP Radyo ng Bayan.
Tumayo po kayo,
I'm Marilu Talentino from the XRP Radyo ng Bayan. Sir, what can you say about the plans of Muslim lawyers to file petitions sa Supreme Court para mapawalang visa po itong declaration ng martial law?
Well, the Constitution says any citizen can go to the Supreme Court, and they have the right to do so. However, the Office of the Solicitor General will be defending the Republic of the Philippines and the President when this matter goes up to the Supreme Court.
Madam Popo.
Sir, to Secretary Abella, I'm Christy po from Sunshine TV. Sir, I'm Christy po from Sunshine TV. Sir, there is a suggestion from FBR na i-reduce po yung declaration of martial law, not just in some areas of Mindanao, sir, in Luzon and Visayas.
I defer that to Solicitor General.
Who said that?
FBR.
FBR po, sir. Suggestion po ni FBR.
He suggested that what?
To reduce the areas of martial law. Yung specifically lang po dun sa mga conflict.
Well, there's a problem with that because, for example, in Mindanao, we don't have secure borders wherein we can contain the rebellion in one area. So, because of the mobility of these terrorists, they can move from Marawi to Iligan and other places. So, I think the suggestion of the former president is not practicable at this time.
Thank you, sir.
Please stand up and identify yourself. Thank you.
Good morning, sir. This is Jerome Morales from Reuters, sir. To the Solicitor General, sir. Maybe ask if there are dead combatants among those foreigners that you mentioned. Were there dead foreign rebels?
If there are combatants?
Yes.
Well,
Yes, sir.
I will defer that to the military spokesman, but I believe there are. In fact, some were killed already.
Anybody else, please? Any more questions, pertinent questions referring to SolGen? Otherwise, we now defer to spokesperson Resti Padilla of the Armed Forces.
Can I be excused now? No more? Okay.
Thank you.
So,
Thank
see you
you.
in Manila.
Thank you very much, sir. Good morning, everybody. I am General Padilla, the spokesperson for the Armed Forces and the designated spokesperson for the implementation of martial law by the military within Mindanao. Off the bat, I'd like to just emphasize that there is no reason for the public to be alarmed and fear the declaration of martial law, as this is intended to address rebellion in Mindanao that is happening. The legal basis for which the declaration has been made has been discussed by the SolGen, and later on I will not answer anything pertaining to any legalities of the declaration. Matters within the implementation, yes, I will do that. Politically motivated questions and legal issues, I will leave that to the lawyers and the politicians. Again, as a second point, we would like to emphasize that it is the greater interest of the public that is at the heart of the implementation of martial law, and that the armed forces will clearly go by all the guidelines that will be issued, and the issued guidelines recently by the Department of National Defense, where emphasis has been placed on upholding the rule of law and to abide and uphold established laws pertaining to human rights. There are many quarters, on this account, there are many quarters who have been raising issues already. They are people living in the past. I would like to state that under the new basis for which martial law is declared, those of the past are very different from the way it is going to be implemented today. Our armed forces is a new armed forces that you should trust. We are the armed forces of the people whose oath is to protect the state and every citizen of this country. And we will do that even at the cost of our lives, as you have been seeing in the many months that we have been fighting this threat. May I also emphasize that law-abiding citizens need not worry, as this is aimed at lawless elements involved in rebellious activities. But for citizens holding on to unregistered loose firearms, we highly encourage them to surrender them to authorities or to initiate appropriate measures to legalize their possession of firearms, so that you will not be subject to the inconvenience of future search and seizure procedures. We also encourage the public to extend their full cooperation and support to facilitate the stabilization of Mindanao and hasten its road back to normalcy. And hence, in this regard, we do request the public to be patient in the measures that will have to be undertaken to ensure that we are doing and going in that direction. Part of which is the establishment of checkpoints in all areas and the possible declaration of curfew hours in certain parts of Mindanao. These measures will be implemented because of the necessity for national security and the safety of the people. Such measures will be announced ahead of time, and that we encourage the public and ask them and request them to please extend your full cooperations to avoid any inconvenience. The AFP has not recommended the suspension of the freedom of expression, but will exercise the right to censure based on the following. 1, to ensure the safety of lives. 2nd, to ensure operational security and the safety of our own men in uniform who are fighting, and for other national security considerations. On account of the doubts that have been expressed by many quarters, we also appeal to the public that should you see abuses on the part of those implementing martial law, men in uniform who are tasked to do that, we encourage you to report them. And on our hand, we will provide you a swift probe and a quick action to ensure the accountability of our men. Finally, on this topic, while we maintain that martial law does not target peace-inclined groups, we will enforce the law uniformly such that all violators of the law, regardless of group affiliations, will be dealt with accordingly. Again, the very basis for the declaration was to establish law and order and the rule of law. In areas where this is apparently breaking down, we shall be very strict and we shall be very harsh for those who are committing acts of rebellion. Again, we would like to assure the public and request you to trust and appeal to you to trust the armed forces, your armed forces, that we will do everything in our capacity alongside the guidelines that have been set by the Constitution and the other guidelines that will be given to us, some of which have already been given by the Commander-in-Chief himself. And he said that we must guarantee that for our citizens who are law-abiding, this will not impede any of their activities, and that they must not fear any measures. So we will only apply the harshest stand against those committing acts of rebellion. In the implementation, may I also share with you that an organizational setup has been formed where we shall be under the administrator of martial law, who is working directly with the Commander-in-Chief. And the designated administrator of martial law is the Secretary of Defense, along with key advisors for specific parts of Mindanao, namely Eastern Mindanao and Western Mindanao. Under him will be a deputy martial law administrator who shall handle the operations, administrative, legal, public affairs, and logistics side of the administration of martial law. And directly under that will be the chief of staff, who will be the implementer of martial law, and under him, working with him, will be the chief of the Philippine National Police. And if you will allow me, I'll just share with you that organizational set up for a clearer understanding.
We will be setting up, by the way, a separate page for...
We will provide you this, but for now, this is what I've been discussing.
You can take shots of it later. Okay.
So, underneath the Commander-in-Chief is the Martial Law Administrator, who is the Secretary of National Defense. And working with him are several advisors for the areas of Mindanao. A deputy will be doing the administrative, logistics, etc. And the Chief of Staff will be the Chief Implementer for martial law, and under him will be the major area commands, primarily Western Mindanao and Eastern Mindanao Command. And directly supporting will be the Commander of Central Command based in the Visayas, if ever there are requirements that may not be provided or cannot be provided by Eastern Mindanao Command and the Western Mindanao Command. Now, on updates in the operational area, if you will allow me, the focus of operations right now is to clear the city of every terrorist that is still currently in the area. These clearing operations are now being carried out since the other day. And as of 12 midnight last night, I am glad to report to you that we have been able to reach parts of the city which have been held by some of these terrorist elements the past few days. We entered the Bangulo area and in the process neutralized 18 and recovered 5 high-powered firearms, bringing the total number of terrorists killed to 31, and lately the recovery of additional firearms, bringing the total firearms recovered to 11. On the government's part, we were able to also secure the safety of trapped residents of Marawi in Barangay Kilala yesterday. There were 16 civilians who were caught in the middle of this continuous fighting and were safely rescued and provided safe passage to the areas of their destination and to evacuation centers if they did not have any place to go. Our men and women in the armed forces is committed to their mission. And because of this commitment, it is sad that we have to offer lives in order to accomplish that. And yesterday, we lost 6 more and 7 wounded, bringing the total number as of 12 midnight last night to 11 members of the armed forces killed and 2 members of the Philippine National Police, one of whom was an officer who was assigned in the area and who was brutally killed by way of beheading. There are also 39 wounded as of 12 midnight last night, based on the report of JTF Sampelan. Up to this moment, operations are ongoing, and there are still firefights between our forces and those of the terrorists in certain parts of the city. But the objective of our armed forces is to clear the city as the soonest time possible. I am now open for any of your questions.
Sir, good afternoon. Raul Dancel, the Straits Times. Can I just run with you the matter about the presence of foreign terrorists in Marawi? SolGen Calida also already mentioned that, yes, there are Malaysians, Indonesians, and even Singaporeans fighting there now?
Yes, there are certain foreign elements here who have been in the country for a long time, aiding these terrorists in skills related to terrorism, primarily bomb making. You know of Sanusi, who was the religious leader of the Maute group, who was neutralized sometime in 2012, if I'm not mistaken. 2002, if I'm not mistaken, or 2012, thereabouts. There are also Malaysians, Singaporeans, and in the fight that has been ongoing in Marawi, we are continuously verifying that there have been a number of them who have been killed. There is a certain information that we received which confirmed the killing of 12 members of this group, and about half of that number are foreign terrorists. Malaysians, Indonesians, and one other, which I could not remember.
Right.
So that confirms the presence of these foreign terrorists.
Next question, please. Ms. Kalala.
General Padilla.
Will you please stand up?
Yes.
Okay.
Diane from UNTV.
I'm sorry.
Diane from UNTV. General Padilla would like to ask, is it true that one of the reasons why our forces are having hard time entering Marawi City is because there are Maute snipers on the elevated areas of Marawi?
The tactics employed by the enemy necessitates their occupying areas to impede the movement of troops. That's the way they will move in areas like this, and that's clearly understandable. We know the threat, and we are addressing this. That is why, thank you for your answer, for your question, Diane. That is why at this point I'd also like to air and communicate to the residents of Marawi, our citizens who have been continuously saying to take every precaution not to bomb the place because they will lose their possessions. We assure our kababayans in Marawi, our Muslim brothers, that we are not bombing your city. We are merely performing surgical airstrikes with pinpoint accuracy to neutralize these threats that have been impeding the entry and movement of our troops. Again, the assurance that we give you is that we are taking every precaution to avoid collateral damage, damage to private property, which you have heavily invested on your whole lives, as well as the loss of innocent lives. May I also request members of the media to please convey that to our kababayans in the area who have been continuously communicating to us about this concern.
Sir, I'm Ina from CNN Philippines. With you confirming, sir, that foreign terrorists are involved, what coordination, if any, are you making with the concerned governments?
Based on what we have so far and based on the accomplishments that we have been able to do the last few months, yes, there were foreign terrorists who were among those killed in many of our operations. And yes, we have been communicating with their governments to cooperate on whatever assistance, information-wise, can be provided to us, as well as what we can provide to assist them on our end.
Sir, you talked about the guidelines kanina, but I understand even with the general do's and don'ts issued to soldiers, even I believe the PNP, there will be a more specific set of guidelines that will be approved by the President. I think that was discussed last night. Ano na po yung status ng mga yon?
The reason I showed you the martial law implementation structure is that the duty of coming up with the guidelines will now be on the part of the administrator. And they are currently working on this, even as we speak. So the administrator will have those set of guidelines and will issue them out to the implementer, who is the Chief of Staff, Armed Forces of the Philippines. But, having said that, there have been initial guidelines that have been issued already, and one was brought out by Undersecretary Del Rosario of the Department of National Defense the other day. I am sure you were able to take cognizance of that. And that initial guidance specifically mentioned that we should abide by the rule of law and established norms regarding human rights. Essentially, the way we will work out in the field does not change. Our rules of engagement will remain the same, except for those that are specific to martial law, such as the suspension of the privilege of writ of habeas corpus.
Sir, you talked about, you talked about exercising your right to censure.
Only for the reasons that I have cited.
Yes, but will there be specific guidelines also to be issued for that? Because, I mean, medyo vague po yung nabanggit. Anyone can cite national security at this time. Easily cite that at this time.
Those will be part of the guidelines that are now being crafted.
And after what we saw in Marawi, sir, yung social media, there were a lot of misinformation. Will these guidelines also cover social media posts?
The reason these guidelines have to be said, to be given and the censure part is because of the things that we have been seeing in the operational environment. You yourselves have seen that tremendous disinformation clouds or creates a thick fog of war that does not allow a better operational picture or provide a better operational picture of the battlefield. And this is one that creates a lot of collateral damage which we want to avoid.
Sir, Ben Tishorna, CNN Philippines. Paano po nakapasok yung terorista dito, and what are the measures taken now to prevent such scenario from happening again? Thank you.
The reason, the way by which many of these foreign terrorists have made their ways through our porous borders. You yourselves are aware that the way we have been monitoring and reinforcing our borders is still wanting. That is why we are taking measures to strengthen the borders. There is a need to work with other agencies on this regard, and we have made appropriate recommendations. Hopefully, those recommendations can be acted on swiftly during the period of martial law so that we can plug all these gaps that have been the reason for their coming into the country. Many also are coming in legitimately by way of their covers, and this is why we are a member of the network of nations working against terrorism. Case in point is the 2 foreign nationals that were, one of whom was already deported recently. The PID took measures, and this information did not come directly from us, but from the network of nations who were working together against terrorism. You're aware of that?
Yung sabi ng President na minsan humahalo sa mga tabliks.
Many ways, not only that. There are legitimate covers of people supposedly offering assistance, creating projects here and there, and the like. I cannot go to the specifics so that we do not communicate our punches.
Good morning, sir. I'm Maya Padilla from Business World. Sir, you've mentioned kanina na what are the cities covered with your clearing operations and how many cities have been cleared so far? And can you also describe how this clearing operation being carried out?
I'm sorry, these are matters operational. I cannot discuss them. They will endanger lives.
Yeah, my name is Yellow from China Central Television. I would like to know, how many troops now we send to Marawi, and how many troops we will send to Marawi to end this crisis as soon as possible? I mean, what's our plan to end this as soon as possible?
Again, I apologize. I cannot answer and give you specifics on the number of troops as well as the number of troops that are inbound to assist. Be that as it may, what I can tell you is that the objective of our armed forces is to expedite the clearing of the city of Marawi of any terrorist elements who are still holed up in the area. Having accomplished this, we will announce whether residents are already free to come in and resume their normal lives.
And may I have another question to Secretary Abella? After yesterday's cabinet meeting, I would like to know, did our president have some plan to visit the site there, or for the Philippine government? For the Philippine government, what kind of measurement we need to do in the future to make this end as soon as possible?
The movements of the president right now are calibrated, are confidential, so we cannot divulge directly what his moves are. Thank you.
Sir Manuel Cayan of Business Mirror. In the past, the MILF and the MNLF were asked to help government engage, or in one instance, it was asked to sidestep. In this case, what's the role of the two revolutionary fronts?
Thank you very much for that question. I actually covered that, but it may not have been clearly understood. The last item I mentioned a while ago was that while we maintain that martial law does not target peace-inclined groups, we will enforce the law uniformly, such that all violators of law, regardless of group affiliations, will be dealt with accordingly. We are happy to note that the MNLF and the MILF have been extending their full cooperation. There is no conflict here. We are in peace talks with the MILF, and all the mechanisms are still in place.
When you mean full cooperation, you mean their armed units are also helping in the operations?
You must understand that keeping them where they are right now is enough for us.
Anything else?
Good afternoon. Good morning, sir.
Will you please
General
stand up?
Padilla, sir. I'm Ruth Palo Dumandan of GMA Super Radio. Sir, can you give us figures of how many displaced families right now in Marawi? And can you give us also the numbers of how many Mautes members right now that we are still hunting and searching?
On the figures about displaced persons and families and individuals, I don't have the numbers right now, and I would like to refer you to the Office of Civil Defense, who is keeping tab of all this. We are actually focusing on operations, on the clearing of the city, and we would not like to be distracted by any others. We leave to other agencies the monitoring of displaced persons, as well as the provision of assistance for each and every one of these IDPs.
The Maute.
On the matter of the Maute, The previous information we have before the launching of the law enforcement operation, which was to target the arrest of Isnilon Hapilon at the beginning of this week, there was a reported 50 numbered Maute group that was securing him. This number has changed because of the dynamics in the battlefield. I cannot give you the specifics because we are still validating all this information at the moment.
Okay, lastly, sir, are we going to implement the no ID, no entry policy?
Again, the identities of people, particularly in areas of conflict, are very important. So if you don't have any identification, as what happened in Davao, you will be inconvenienced. So please carry with you your identification and the reason for your being in certain areas where you will be held up.
Last two questions, please.
Sir, Edith Caduaya of Newsline. Sir, she mentioned about the ID system which is being asked of every citizen in the city and maybe in other parts of Mindanao. Will this declaration pave the way for the unified enforcement of the national ID system? Secretary Abella, please.
Come again. About the ID system.
Because in the light of this martial law, ID has been very crucial thing a person must have in every time. Yeah.
That will be a matter of the legislation.
There was this proposal before, sir, but it's pending in Congress, I suppose. Will it revive the proposal? General Padilla.
Based on my understanding and the monitoring of Congress, I understand that it's already about to be implemented. It has gone through Congress and I think it has been approved. That there is a need to have a national ID system for the purpose of transacting business with government. I will refer you to this to the Senate or the Congressional Secretariat, who may provide you the specifics of how that has happened.
Last, sir.
Okay, one follow-up. Okay. Thank you.
To General Padilla, sir, given the border problem in Mindanao, how can we be assured, how can the secured areas be assured that the Marawi incident will not spread in other areas which is not yet contained with the terror cells?
Thank you very much. The declaration of martial law allows us a degree of latitude to exert and to enforce certain actions that will work on that aspect. And right now, there has already been specific instructions from the Commander-in-Chief himself for the Navy to secure all the borders with the cooperation of our other marine-related agencies such as the Philippine Coast Guard, Marina, and the like. So we will do everything in our capacity, along with all these agencies, to carry out the orders of the President to plug all the gaps that are in existence in our borders.
Last question, please.
Sir, good morning. Richie Nalagon from Mindanao Daily Mirror and RPN Davao. You mentioned kanina that the MILF and MNLF step aside, walang movement. But the New People's Army has announced that they will be stepping up operations against government forces. In fact, last night ata, a patrol of policemen in Arakan, North Cotabato was ambushed by the NPA and one police was wounded. What is the action right now of the AFP with regards to the pronouncement of the NPA as well as the orders of the command to the lower officers?
That question, I guess, has been answered by OPAP because of a statement that has been issued early yesterday, regarding the pronouncement of the left. On the part of the armed forces, we sadly receive news of this, and would still highly encourage the other group to reconsider what their announcement was. As I have said in the beginning of this Q&A, the desire of the armed forces and the declaration of martial law is aimed at restoring the rule of law and order, specifically in those areas that have been affected by the presence of terrorist elements, both local and foreign. And so, as much as we would like to focus on this, if the NPA will insist to do what they want, as I mentioned in the final note of my earlier briefing, that we will enforce the law uniformly, no matter who these groups are. So if the NPA continues to violate our laws and with impunity attack our forces, then we will deal with that accordingly. But again, I would surmise that it is good to express here that they should reconsider that announcement, since we are in formal talks with them. And we have set some preconditions that have been mentioned by the President that they should cooperate with, such as attacks on agricultural areas, the burning of equipment, which are also violations of the law.
In response to that, just to add a little bit, I'd like to quote a few sections of Secretary Bello's response to the matter. He says, "We therefore find the CPP directive to the NPA to intensify attacks as totally misplaced, born out of a grossly distorted appreciation of President's intention. At the very least, it was an insult to the candor and genuineness displayed by the President and the Government of the Republic of the Philippines panel in talking peace. At worst, it betrays the absence of sincerity of the CPP in the negotiating table. Against this backdrop, we reaffirm our commitment and remain confident in winning our quest for lasting peace." I'd just like to end this now by quoting something from Secretary Dominguez. And he has released a statement that says, "Solid fundamentals are buoyed Philippine economy despite martial law in Mindanao. The economy has ample buffers to withstand adverse effects of the current unrest in Mindanao, as traders favor the Philippines," the Department of Finance said. Finance Secretary Carlos Dominguez said the country's solid macroeconomic fundamentals buoyed the local bourse, stock market, and the peso despite President Duterte's declaration of martial law in Mindanao. On Thursday, the Bellwether Philippine Stock Exchange Index added 33.83 points, or 0.42%, to close at 7,871.65, while the peso ended stronger against the greenback at 49.83 from 49.995 in the previous day. National Treasurer Rosalia De Leon said the Philippines' ample buffers position the country to weather changes in global environment, noting the nation's external debt to gross domestic product is 24.5%, is one of the lowest in the region. We continue to increase our reliance into peso funding, taking advantage of ample liquidity. In other words, all this is to say that while there are certain things that need to be addressed in the nation, the rest of the country is doing very well, considering the fact that the fundamentals are basic and that the general direction of the President is quite healthy and, in fact, solid. The rest of the nations appreciate this, and I believe as Filipinos we need to continue to appreciate what's happening in the nation, and that I think this is also a challenge for us to really have a mind shift and a shift of heart in order to become more patriotic Filipinos. Regarding this matter of daily update, what we call this is a soft launch of what we call Mindanao Hour, and starting Monday we are intending to have a regular daily update, either from Manila or from Davao, with designated spokespersons from the military and other parties, and that hopefully for the next, it will be less than 60 days, but we will have regular updates, including Saturday and Sunday, starting Monday. All right. Thank you very much. You have been a great audience. Thank you. ISIS.